The Queensland Flood Commission's interim report has been met with mixed reactions. The report recommends a reduction in the capacity of the Ivanhoe Dam if another wet season is predicted, saying there was a lack of clarity on the management of the dam in the lead up to the flood. For more, reporter Kathy McLeish joins us from Brisbane. Kathy, good morning. At the time of the floods, the management of the Ivanhoe Dam was much speculated about, and there was a lot of debate about whether management could have been better to prevent the damage done by the floods. What did the report find?
Basically, Francis, the report found that the dam operators and the dam engineers had followed the book, that they had followed the regulations and the requirements to the letter, except for one technical breach. Now, the fact that there's been this technical breach that involved whether the engineers had taken into account the best possible forecast, it's opened SEQ Water to potential legal action, but apparently it is very technical and it will be quite complicated, certainly not cut and dried. So that's what it found with the dam engineers. With the management of the dam and whether that level should have been reduced, again, the management followed the book, except for a point about confusion as to who was responsible for calling for the dam to be released, or for okaying the dam water to be released ahead of that massive wet season that was coming towards us, and reducing it and potentially avoiding a massive flood. And the minister failed to clarify the confusion, was what the report found, and it found that ultimately that was the government's responsibility. So certainly we've heard quite a bit from the opposition on that already.
Kathy, you mentioned the minister there, Stephen Robertson. What has the state government's response been to some of these findings in the report, other than to say they're going to implement the 175 recommendations? Are they taking responsibility for some of these failings?
Certainly, the Premier, Anna Bligh, took a very full and frank approach to it yesterday. She said that they always knew it would be a tough report, that they were never going to step away from any recommendations or findings. They accepted that there was some criticism of the government, some criticism of the flood management, disaster management plans for the state, and that that's what the inquiry was about, and that they will, as she said, fully implement every one of those recommendations that relate to the state.
Earlier you mentioned legal action. What have residents and business owners been saying about the possibility of taking legal action in light of some of these recommendations?
Well, up until now, while we've been waiting to see the outcome of this report, there's been enormous anger among people who were flooded for a range of reasons. There's a huge amount of homes that have been built in the 40 years since the last massive flood here in these areas. This level was 1 metre lower than the 1974 floods, and yet twice as many properties were affected. So people are concerned about that. People are concerned about the way the releases were managed, and there has been talk of legal action if it's shown that the dam wasn't managed properly. It's such early days. It was a very weighty report. It wasn't very clear. It was very difficult to read through the lines. It was a very heavy report that came out yesterday, so there will be much discussion and analysis this week, and we'll hear more about what will come of that technical breach and whether that will be something that people can actually take action and claim for compensation on.
And Kathy, this report comes only 6 months after the floods. What can we expect in terms of the rest of the work of the inquiry into the floods?
Well, the Commission will begin new hearings, a new round of hearings from September, and that will look into urban planning and insurance. So that one's going to be watched with great interest as well.
Kathy McLeish in Brisbane, thanks very much.
Thanks, Francis.